We're going to do things differently today. A little bit of face cam action here. It's bare behind me. I will eventually work on getting some stuff for the background so it doesn't look so empty behind me. But I kind of want to turn this into more of kind of like a podcast or a talk show, something like that. It'll still be everything you love about the channel, just a little bit more face cam incorporated on this channel. But we're coming off of a 24-13 loss over Oklahoma, and I can't lie. You're watching the game, and at the end of it, you really are frustrated, and you're searching for answers. And I'm going to try and find those answers here in this video. We'll talk about the loss to Oklahoma. We'll talk about the frustrations that a lot of fans are feeling after that game. It was a game in which Oklahoma dominated pretty much from start to finish, and a lot of football games have that could have, should have feel, and I feel like Oklahoma could have beaten us by 30. They probably should have beaten us by 30. They had a couple of turnovers. They had a muff punt return and interception thrown by John Mateer. Fortunately, we didn't even turn the ball over in this game. We just flat out couldn't do anything. Defensively, it was pretty difficult to stop John Mateer, and we're not going to sit here and act like he's not some star quarterback because he is a stud, probably a Heisman favorite at the end of that game. He is versatile with his legs. And then when he got out of the pocket, he was extremely dynamic and he was able to make plays. On the opposite side of the football, for Michigan's defense, they weren't terrible. I mean, you kind of saw some glimpses and then you kind of saw some bad things that you really didn't like, right? Like not getting off the field on third downs, not creating pressure was also something that was frustrating to watch throughout this game. Of course, at the end with Wink Martindale, we were able to establish some pressure as we brought some defensive backs on some blitzes, but you just weren't able to get to John Mateer with 4. And I see a lot of fans really frustrated about the fact that our edge rushers and TJ Guy, Derek Moore, Cam Brandt, they just really weren't able to bring the pressure in this game. And the way that I feel about it is they were really acting in a QB spy role. They weren't getting upfield and creating pressure because if they do that, John Mateer is just going to run. And he is extremely versatile with his legs, so it was going to be kind of a lose-lose situation. At the end of the day, you weren't able to create pressure early in the game, and you're really not going to be able to do it late in the game with 4, so you eventually moved to some defensive back help, and they were able to get to Mateer later in the game. But overall, just kind of felt like they weren't an impact in this game at all. Of course, we're missing Jayshon Barham in the first half of action. Fortunately, when we got him back, he was able to help us out a lot, only holding Oklahoma to 10 points in the second half, and kind of felt like we were winning the defensive battle in the second half of this game. But when you don't have your, one of your best players on defense for the first half, it is going to hurt you. Jimmy Rolder was just not fast enough, in my opinion. Cole Sullivan, same story, just not fast enough to contain John Mateer. In the secondary, it was a lot of zone defense and a lot of soft coverage. I really was not a fan of that. Wink Martindale got it going at the end of last season, but it kind of felt like in this game against Oklahoma, he went back to more of that soft coverage, and Oklahoma just kind of dink and dunk and was able to kind of pick apart our zone defense. Overall, I don't think the defense is who you would blame for the loss in this game. You have a dynamic Oklahoma offense that you were able to kind of keep in check. Overall, Oklahoma's not a team that's going to run with the running backs all that much, so you would expect them to stop the running game on that end. But it just kind of felt like 24 points, holding Oklahoma to 24 points feels like it probably should have been enough to win this game. Now we'll flip over to the offensive side of the ball with Michigan, and it was atrocious. It was ugly. 3 for 14 on third downs, only 288 yards of offense. 75 of that came on one play to begin the second half. You were 9 of 24 passing. That's not good enough. And running the ball overall wasn't terrible, but like I said, 75 of those yards came on one play. So you do the math, and it's like 2-point-something yards per carry the rest of the way out. You didn't turn the ball over, and you didn't really commit too many penalties. Oklahoma, on the other hand, did commit a lot of penalties, and that's kind of what allowed us to stay in this game. But on offense, the way that I look at it is you have an identity that Sherrone Moore wants to keep, and that is that we're going to run the football and we're going to go smash mouth. Oklahoma's defense was stacking the box because they knew we weren't going to throw the ball, and they stopped the run all day long. When it comes to the offense for Michigan, you bring in Chip Lindsey, more of a spread guy. He, was the offensive coordinator for Drake May. Omarion Hampton was a first-round draft pick in that offense that Chip Lindsey ran. So you kind of have expectations for this high-powered offense that Chip Lindsey can get going here. But it kind of felt like Sherrone Moore just had too much of an impact on the offensive play calling, on the game plan. it really doesn't feel like he's given the keys over to his offensive coordinator yet to call a complete game. You can blame Chip Lindsey for the screen passes, for the play actions on 2nd and 15, for the runs on 3rd and 8. Obvious running downs. What did Michigan do? They ran. But is that Chip Lindsey, or is that the influence of Sharon Moore on this offense? At the end of the day, I'm still trying to figure out that answer. And that's the biggest question that I have in this game is, where does the offense go from here? Does Chip Lindsey take over that role as the offensive coordinator and own it? Or does Sharon Moore continue to try and put this smash concept on display here? I think that the identity of Michigan football is smash mouth football. We're going to run the ball down your throat, and we're going to force you to stop it. In this case, Oklahoma did, and we had no answer for it. I think Bryce Underwood played as well as he possibly could have. I'd like to see him throw with a little bit more touch, but when he gets out of the pocket, he's dynamic. I'd like to see him tuck the ball and run a little bit more as well. But at the end of the day, I think that for a true freshman quarterback in his 2nd ever start on the road in Norman, Oklahoma, I think he played pretty solid overall. A couple of good passes in that game. Donovan McCauley with an incredible catch. Looking for the receivers to do a little bit better as well here as we get going throughout the season. You got Nebraska on the road upcoming. That's a tough game, and you need the receivers to ball out in that one. Also, I should mention Marlon Klein not playing in this game was something that also hurt Michigan. That's the number 1 pass catcher in this offense, and he was unable to go in this game. You had a lot of guys get banged up in this one as well. Gio Al-Hadi got injured in this one. Brandon Hillman was on and off the field, it felt like, throughout the entire game as he was throwing up. So just a game in which you kind of got beat down. And my hat's off to Oklahoma. They're a good football team. And I think this was something that fans could look at one of 2 ways. One, we got beat down by Oklahoma and our season's over and it's not going to get better and we're the same team we were last year. That is a very poor way of looking at things. Or you can look at it through an optimistic scope. And that is that we got beat down, of course, on the road, but it's our true freshman's 2nd ever start. And maybe he needed to lose. Maybe this team needed to lose. Maybe they needed to be humbled. Throughout the spring, summer, and fall, the talk was, we're going to be dominant. And they never seen a freshman like us. And while I think that's still a true statement, maybe you needed to lose in order to humble yourself. And moving forward, you can figure out what went wrong and you can build upon it. This is a team that I still think can go out and win 9 to 10 games. I know that they can do that. When I made my schedule prediction video, I even saw Oklahoma winning this game. And that's because this was a 2nd ever start for a true freshman quarterback. There's some things that Michigan definitely need to clean up. Obviously on offense, you got to find your identity. What do you want to do? If you want to be a smash mouth team, that's fine, but you have to find a way to be able to throw the ball when you're forced to. When you look at the stat line, like I said, 288 yards of offense, but 75 of that came on 1 play. Like I said, the frustrations from Michigan fans are definitely warranted. You can be frustrated at the end of this game, but Oklahoma's a good team. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to build on this one. You're going to go to the drawing room and the drawing board, and you're going to figure out what went wrong and how you can not allow this to happen again. As I wrap this video up, I should mention Sharon Moore will be suspended for the next 2 games. The first of which being a home game against Central Michigan, and then the second one is a road game against Nebraska. That's going to be a tough game. Biff Poggi is going to be acting as the interim head coach, and my hope here is that with Sharon being sidelined and not able to be in the facility, Chip Lindsey kind of takes that offense and does a little bit more of what he wants to do with it. Get those screens out of the playbook, though. I don't want to see them anymore. You run 10 screens a game, and they're no longer effective because the team knows what you're going to do. At the end of the day, I still love Michigan football. I still think this is a really solid team with a lot of playmakers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what you guys think Michigan needs to do to improve. I think there's the offensive line as well. But you got some guys banged up there. Hopefully they gel together throughout the season and get better. Like I said, let me know what I missed. I'm sure there's some other things that you guys caught in that game that I didn't catch as I'm recording this a couple of days after the fact. So a lot of the fresh things have honestly slipped my mind. If you wonder what I'm looking at the screen in front of me. I'm not looking at the camera the entire time. I will get stuff on the wall behind me so that it's not so bare. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Go Blue.